Hello, welcome to weekly Bangladesh Roundup. I'm your host Saquib Ali. We talk on different issues of importance of current affairs in Bangladesh every week. Today is Monday, 24th April 2023. Eid Mubarak. We just had our Eid al-Fitr. And so not much happened. Last week, we talked about the similarities between two important leaders of United States and Bangladesh, Mr. Donald Trump and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. One of the important similarity between them is that they would like to stay in power by any way possible. And if in fair way it is not possible, they will not flinch to commit to use unfair means. Now, when Mr. Donald Trump came into power in 2016, very few people thought that he was such a leader that who would do such a thing. But one of the persons who spoke out very vehemently was a lady named Dr. Bandy Lee. Dr. Bandy Lee was a professor, assistant professor of Yale University. He was an expert in violence because he used to interview inmates convicted of violence. And she immediately found out, she thought that Donald Trump posed a big danger to American democracy. In United States, there is a rule called Barry-Goldwater rule, which says that psychiatrists cannot diagnose a politician because they are not doing their therapy directly. So when Dr. Bandy Lee said these things, she was criticized and fired by Yale University. But her book became a bestseller, and she had predicted that even if Donald Trump loses his election, he will not concede or he will not give up power peacefully. And she was proved to be prescient. So I thought that I will use Dr. Bandy Lee's words to understand the psychological aspect of violence in our political environment. We have to understand that, first of all, when we are talking about, we are not diagnosing anybody. However, we are designed to find patterns. And if we find patterns where we see certain things happening, then it should give us pause to think about what is happening. So we need to educate ourselves, and it is from that perspective I am, speaking today. These estimations that we are doing. We'll start with Dr. Bandy Lee's observation. She's saying Trump was engaged in predatory manipulation of his vulnerable followers. Predatory means that when strong goes after the weak and they manipulate of his vulnerable followers. In some cases, gang leaders might ask their members to engage in violence and then issue bogus promises of protection. Like Trump, these leaders also often project extreme self-confidence, and that appeals to their followers who tend to feel a deep emotional need for protection, connection, and identity. Now, let us see that all these people who work for Sheikh Hasina, they do like her strength. We like the protection we receive from a strong leader. So we like that protection, that connection, and that identity. We will talk about what kind of people will do best in this kind of situations. But few things are important to observe here. First one is they are predatory. They don't go after strong people. They go after weak. They know who their vulnerable followers are, and we will talk more about it. But they ask for violence. They ask for violence, and when their followers perpetrate that violence, they prove their loyalty. This brain of the autocratic ruler, it was developed because of deep, extreme neglect, lack of attention, lack of love in the childhood. And usually it happens in powerful houses also, where powerful fathers and mothers are absent from the children's life. So in this childhood, this kind of environment creates this pathology, meaning which will be damaging and destructive to others, the pathology of autocracy, which is that they would like to dominate others. They would like to manipulate others. They lose any intrinsic connection, but they have instrumental connection with fellow human beings. Now, this happens according to Dr. Bandy Lee, in the primitive mind. It happens in the primitive mind, not in the cognitive mind, not in our rational mind. And so they are unconscious about it. So there is no hesitation. There is no lack of there is no self-doubt. They're infallible. There is no remorse. So they're smooth. They're smooth in lying, in making up things, in making up stories, in taking actions, in being reckless, in taking dominant actions. And this primitive mind is actually without any internal control. As a rational mind, a cognitive mind will have internal control. They don't. And this kind of behavior can also be seen in a street gang. The street gang leader, the street gang satisfied the need for belonging and strength. They have their own quest for power. So they also, know principles, only expediency, and they have that cruelty and violence. The autocratic leaders, were made out of deprivation, and they can detect a deprived psychology. So they usually find out what that other person wants, then they show them that position or money or whatever. That is the hook. And then they make the other person, the weak person, swallow it, and then they become their slave. This is how it works. It is extremely powerful. The bond is extremely powerful because it is at a very level of close to our, as I said, primitive sense of security and strength, of fear and strength, of fear and domination. See, we feel fearful of other people, so we want to dominate others. This is a very extreme pathology. In this kind of relationship bonding, there is abuse, there is denigration. If you do not follow these leaders' ways, then you will be denigrated, you will be made small, and they will not stop until you comply and you become their instruments. Now, they have a very important attribute, which is that they can attract same kind of people. And this same kind of people, that means who had also been deprived, they feel deprived of something. And there can be a synergy between these leader and the partner, and the follower, not partner, the follower. There can be synergy. And that synergy, there is a symbiosis is created in psychological terms. There is the total enmeshing is created. And that's why in USA, in Republicans, among Republicans, one Trump gives many, many Trumps. In Bangladesh, one Sheikh Hasina will give you many Sheikh Hasinas. In everywhere, in Modi, they will give you many Modis. These leaders usually have also public policies which cause economic and social distress, and they create unemployment, or they don't create much employment. They just let me look. They promote policies that increase social and economic distress, inequality, and loss. For example, through unemployment, recession, poverty, bankruptcy, homelessness. During their time, the rate of homicide and suicide also rise. In Bangladesh, we do not know how many homicide and suicides have risen. But I think we will need to figure it out in future. But how it affects public health, we can see one thing, that in Bangladesh, in happiness index, in 2021 it was 101st. In 2022 it was 94th out of 146 countries. In 2023 it is 118 out of 137 countries. Excepting India, in South Asia, every other country is happier than us. Pakistan, even Myanmar. Nepal is the happiest. and our government talks about development. Uh, we need to understand that this kind of uh, political leadership, demagoguery, and autocratic leadership thrives on division, on resentment, on mutual suspicion, by separating everybody from others. So that's why in a heterogeneous country where there is big minorities, it is easier for them to thrive. They usually use what? Religion, ethnicity, gender, this kind of issues to excite these kind of issues as the wedge issues, to divide people. Even if there is no division, in Bangladesh there is no division. So they have created division. And these divisions are usually, you will see, cultural war. Because this is close to our heart. So they try to use your religion against you. They try to give you an idea of what your culture should be, this kind of, and how we should comply with their worldview. So this in Bangladesh, this has happened in this way. And you see that in Bangladesh, Awami League has always tried to put BNP as what? As civilian military. It was made a different civilian military, which is not really. There is how many military persons work in Awami League and how many military persons work in BNP. It doesn't make any sense. But they just want to use that division. They use their association with Jamaat to drive the religion and culture. So I'm not saying that BNP doesn't have much of an element, but it has been overemphasized, and that has been weaponized. This has been possible. I want to add my 2 cents with this, that this has been possible in Bangladesh, especially because Sheikh Hasina has been able to use the bureaucracy. Usually, these kind of leaders can do this kind of thing, can dominate and can concentrate all the power in their hand. In Bangladesh, it is already in the constitution, so it's easy in the first hand. But the leader who can totalize it usually comes at a time of uncertainty. I think in 2007-8, the people of Bangladesh were uncertain about Islamic extremism, and uncertain about electricity generation, development, and all that. At that time, Sheikh Hasina came into power and said that she is going to deliver stability and law and order and development. And this is what she has done by taking our rights away and using violence. Now, this violence is not only physical violence. This violence can be withholding of reward, taking you out of, so that you cannot earn your livelihood, so that you cannot be in the society. So that if I can separate you from the society, you will feel weak and you will not be able to revolt against me. So in Bangladesh, the bureaucracy that has been developed, which had happened in colonial times, had an element of dehumanization built into it, an element of power hungriness built into it. It had, its own autocratic character. And so that autocratic character has, went hand in glove with the autocratic character of the regime. When our bureaucrats do not see the suffering of the people in front of their eyes, means they have become blind, and they have dehumanized others. When their life is not affected, their own family's life is not affected, and they are not affected by their society and their own general compliance with tyranny, you know that they have become blind. And this, I hope that in Bangladesh we would, come out of it as soon as possible. We should also understand that as President Trump did not go peacefully, Sheikh Hasina is not going to go out peacefully. So our our opposition parties and all our international friends should understand that, and I think they do. If we understand the use of violence that is being done in our country structurally, in our judiciary, in our criminal justice system, in the arbitrariness of our government action over our people, we have to look at it again, because this is not appropriate for an independent country of self-respecting citizens. And so I think that our judicial system, our criminal justice system, our government system, our political system, they must look at the psychological aspect of our laws and of our actions, what our actions do to others and what our actions do to us. We have to remove the use of violence from our schools, from our offices, and from our jails, and from our police lockups. Only then we can have a strong and independent, cohesive, powerful Bangladesh. Thank you. Good night.